This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Happy, happy, happy days are here again.
Yeah, huh? 4.1% Q2 GDP growth.
GDP, yeah, you know me.
Yeah, all right, 4.1%. As promised, over 4% growth. We haven't seen that in 4 years. And, in advance of this good news, which was anticipated, President Trump had some people collect Wilbur Ross from his crypt and put him on Brett Baer's show yesterday to talk trade.
Everything is on the table.
Yeah, I'm talking zero tariffs, possibly.
Right. President made clear at the G7, although, as you remember, nobody paid any attention, that his end game is zero tariffs, zero non-tariff trade barriers, zero subsidies, and zero barriers to our market access. So 4 big zeros.
All right, 4 big zeros. Then Wilbur Ross expired. That was all he could give that morning.
And then he fell asleep on set.
For more on Wilbur Ross's sarcophagus, as well as the economy, we're pleased to be joined by Scott the Cow Guy, Fox Business contributor, Scott Shellady. Scott, thanks for being with us. Appreciate it.
Good morning.
Good morning. 4% GDP growth. This has to, you're normally unbridled in your enthusiasm and optimism, but this really has to put you in a stratospheric place, I suspect.
Well, the sarcasm does not go unnoticed, number one. Number two is, while it's good, yes, we like to see, and that makes our run rate here for the year around 3%, which is also very good. But, I've seen some pretty good research from some people that are a lot smarter than I that say that, there was a big demand pull here. There was a lot of business done pre-tariff, worrying about how much more expensive things will be in the coming months. So about 1% of that 4% was even just soybean sales that were done before any new tariffs were coming in. So this is, one number does not a year make. It's great news, but the research suggests that this could be the high watermark.
Oh, really? So you don't think it'll go up to 5?
Well, we've got a lot of work to do if that's going to be the case, because if we do have these tariffs come in, that's going to put, that'll be a headwind, number one. Number two, like I said, 1.06% of the 4.1% number we got was just due to soybean sales before any so-called tariffs were going to come into effect. So 25% of that number is demand pull, and so we're going to have to start to see something really good happen to kind of fill in for what this was, basically stealing from the future.
Well, so if as you said, demand was accelerated because of the artificial entrance of taxes by Trump and competitive countries, then maybe that would be a market feedback sign to the president to say we need to build quickly upon that good meeting you had with EU hefes the other day and get to that low tariff, if not zero tariff environment, the 4 zeros that Wilbur Ross was describing.
That would be in nirvana. That's what we need to do, is have that type of scenario where you could backfill some of that demand that we've stolen from the future, number one. And I think that ultimately there'll be some of that. The problem, well, it's not a problem. This was consumer-led, which is good. And when the consumer leads, then that will also that goes into business confidence. And when CEOs start to get confident about the consumer spending, all of these things can build on top of each other. But if we do have some sort of headwind with some sort of global slowdown because of some sort of worry about tariffs, it doesn't really have to be actual tariffs, but just the general worry. That's what I think that some of this research is worried about, that, yes, we did have this demand pull, but we're going to have to see something like a great deal with the EU and Jean-Claude Juncker come through and really start to give us those numbers, towards the next half of the year that we weren't expecting to see.
What do you think about the $12 billion giving out, or the handout to farmers? Because the farmers I know want markets and opportunities and not handouts.
Yeah, you know what? That's kind of a placeholder, if you ask me. We've got a family farm ourselves, and I think if you talk to the farmers, they're still on Trump's side. I think they still think that something will happen, and I guess I could probably be a little bit of that myself. So this is just a placeholder to keep them happy until that something does happen and keep them on their side. So he's kind of like Willie Wilson. He maybe bought their vote in the short term here so that he can get something done in the long term. And I think that's
Willie Wilson.
Exactly what I thought of
Willie
when
Wilson.
I heard about that, the $12 billion in subsidies. Like, oh, he's doing the same exact thing Willie Wilson is, only in a different way.
Well, I mean, let's look.
Not
Paying
exactly.
for votes.
Let's-
It's right by the midterms when it's going to take effect, September 15th.
I don't like the denigrating of Willie Wilson going on here.
No, I agree.
Yes.
Well, you know what? Listen, farmers can't complain. I mean, they've been one of the most heavily subsidized businesses in the country. And as my father would say, weather will never put a farmer out of business, but if you back over his mailbox, he's in big trouble. Right? So.
Oh, wait, that's even better.
That's...
You know what my favorite joke is?
What?
It's a sort of a farmer joke.
Oh, I've got a joke or two.
A farmer walks into the Department of Agriculture. He sees a guy with his head down on the table crying, and he asks the guy, "Well, what's wrong? Why are you crying?" And the Department of Agriculture employee says, "My farmer died."
Oh.
No? The mailbox one is better. Fine, Scott. You're better comedic timing. Okay, fine, whatever.
Anyway.
So what about Facebook? Yesterday, Mark Zuckerberg's network took an Albanian-sized hit, and concerns about the tech sector, or that's just a Facebook-related matter?
There are some concerns there. I mean, that's been a big leader for us as far as our stock prices, our asset prices go. But, all you got to do, if you're Mark Zuckerberg, I'm sure that they've hunkered down and they're telling themselves we're back to where we started at the beginning of the year at $176 a share, whatever it is, around that level. It was where they started the year, so it just gave away the yearly gains. And also, they did plunge to 152 after the Facebook scandal that we had earlier in the year. So although $120 billion is gargantuan, I think that it's still they're still a lot better off over the last 4 years had they. But there are those out there, and a little bit with a little bit of a snarky attitude that are calling, peak Facebook. Right? Have we really started to get sick of this? It started off as being a place to, stay in touch with your friends, and now they've wiped it clean of all of the things that were kind of interesting, right? And now it's just everybody showing you what they had to eat or their dog doing something funny, and that's really not hitting the market anymore. So,
Amy,
yeah, I think that. So the Twitter's following on. There's obviously they're getting some heat because, obviously they've got some fake accounts, but number two, they're having a problem with users. So we've got to start to see those numbers really pick up and. Before these tech numbers or these tech giants start to get better.
Do you think Facebook may go the way of MySpace?
There's those out there that have already jumped on that bandwagon, just like, as soon as we have hot weather, we've got global warming again. So I think it's probably a little bit too early for that. But at the end of I do think the shine has come off the tech halo. I definitely think that. And you know what we always forget here, and everybody needs to really take a quick self-exam. If you don't like Facebook and you don't like their practices, and Twitter for that matter as well, don't go on it. I mean, it's the most democratic thing you can do in the world is just go off of Facebook. I mean, so there's the power is still with the people on this. If they don't like it, they can leave, and we'll start to see, or we'll wait to see how these end user numbers stack up.
There was some talk in the spring about Tax Cuts 2.0, doing something on the capital gains tax to make it even a more pro-growth environment after the regulatory relief that President Trump has advanced in his first year in office. That sort of seems to be quieted down now. Probably nothing. We're going to see nothing happen on that front until and unless Republicans are able to hold both chambers in November. But in a scenario in which they did hold on to control of Congress, would that be the next thing that you would like to see from this administration in terms of spurring investment and entrepreneurial activity?
Yes, it would, because I still really don't think that the Tax Cuts 1.0 or regulation, reform has fully gone through the system yet. So, I mean, there's still some good things happening there. And, we talk about numbers all the time, but you know what President Trump has done, love him or hate him, is the most difficult thing to do is change sentiment, right? And now we've finally got the consumer, the savings rate went down on this report that we got this morning. So the consumer's now opening up the pocketbook, his or her pocketbook, and that's going to give more confidence to the business leaders and the CEOs out there. So this sentiment is really what's been the fantastic thing that he's changed. Now he's got these tax cuts and regulation reform that's starting to come through the system, which I still don't think has totally hit. And if we do get Texas 2.0, I'm not calling, like a lot of guys say, we're going to have a huge higher in the equity market. We've done so much so soon already, but it could definitely come in to support prices where they're at because they are pretty high. And then we can start to see maybe build a base or at least go sideways for a little bit while we kind of get, catch our breath, because it's been a historic run here for a long time, and nothing goes straight up forever. So a little bit of a break would be great. At the same time, we come in, build in behind these numbers and behind these asset prices some good, solid economic footing.
He is the Oracle of Northwest Indiana by way of London. He's Scott the Cow Guy, Shellady. Scott, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
All right, guys. Have a good one.
You too.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
You're listening to Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.